Hey, how's everyone doing? Baz Luhrmann's Elvis just released theatrically, a new biopic about Elvis Presley, so let's review it. So this movie is, of course, about Elvis Presley and his music and his life, and mainly about his relationship with Colonel Tom Parker, which I really knew little about Elvis outside. I knew a few of his songs, but about his physical life, I knew very little about him. So, of course, this movie is directed by Baz Luhrmann, who he's a director who I've seen a number of his films. I've seen Great Gatsby, obviously the Great Gatsby from 2013 with Leonardo DiCaprio. I've also seen Romeo and Juliet. I watched that back in high school. Wasn't really a fan of that one a while ago, but I was really young. It's been forever since I watched that one. The Great Gatsby was fine. It's a pretty stylized version of Great Gatsby that is really interesting. But anyways, so he's a very interesting director with lots of his unique style, cinematography, music, how he utilizes music, stuff like that. He's very stylized director, and you can absolutely feel that in this through the editing, especially in the first 5 minutes. You're immediately gonna just feel this kind of unique directional style from Baz Luhrmann, and honestly, it's really enjoyable. I enjoy a film that feels different, that feels like it's made by a very specific director. That's a big appeal with Wes Anderson, with how he has his own thing. He does his own thing with his own movies. So I always like that because you can just immediately feel this director's vision and that they are directing this movie, that this specific person is directing this movie. I think that's really cool, and obviously you can really feel all his kind of traits in this film with the skyline cinematography stuff, the editing the words of what's going on into the movie with big pop-up letters and stuff like that. You can really feel that all throughout the film, and I enjoyed it. I thought he did a great job directing it. I could easily say this is my favorite film of the three that I have watched. I'm very curious to check out his other handful of films he has made because he's definitely a very interesting director. So I really enjoyed his directing here. The acting in this film is the biggest standout. Austin Butler, who's an actor I wasn't super familiar with heading into this movie. I've seen him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, especially in the end of that movie. But other than that, I didn't know anything else he was in. But he is just absolutely incredible in this movie as Elvis Presley, which honestly, that's not an easy job to pull off. It's such a specific type of person to play, and he just does such a good job, especially just maintaining this kind of energy and passion throughout the film, and really capturing this persona. And he is so good in this movie. Easily, I think he's going to be an Oscar standout when it comes time for the Oscars, which is a little under a year away. But he's so good in this movie, and it's just such and it's a very much an Oscar performance. It's the kind of performance that wins Oscars. He's just really good in general. Tom Hanks is in this as well. He's kind of he plays Colonel Parker, which he's not quite as good as Austin Butler. He is good. I did like him in this movie, and it's nice to see him in movies. It was cool because this is the first theatrical live-action Tom Hanks film I've been able to see, so it was nice to actually see him on the big screen. So I enjoyed that. He's nothing special, far from his best career performance or anything like that, but he's fun. I enjoy him in this film as a more a kind of antagonist role. So I did like that from Tom Hanks. But overall, this is just a really well-made biopic. It really cuts to the chase with this movie. A big issue with biopics is they kind of put in a little too much fluff into their movies, and it's stuff that kind of deviates from the plot too much. I thought this film did a really good job of kind of going over that stuff really quickly and really focusing on the important stuff. Elvis's music, Elvis and his manager, Elvis and his wife, stuff like that really matters, and not putting in too much stuff that really will just drag down the pace of the movie. So I thought that was really well done, really well written movie, and just really kept moving forward. It is a long movie. That is my biggest issue, is this movie's just under 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And you really can feel it by the end of it. I was honestly exhausted by the end of the movie. Not that I was bored or anything or waiting for it to end, but it's just a very exhausting movie to watch because there's so much going on so quickly, so much music, so much dialogue and stuff like that. And it's very energetic, and it's very energetic for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So my biggest issue is it is a little long. There's no way around that. I just think it's definitely could have been shorter, though that it didn't ruin the movie at all for me. Just certainly on a rewatch would hurt it, and something probably you'd notice more and more with every time you rewatch this movie. So that's definitely the biggest issue here for me. Other than that, I don't really have any other major issues. Sometimes the story could be a little confusing, watery. The editing was a little annoying at times with Baz Luhrmann's kind of stylistic editing. It was a little annoying at times. Other than that, I didn't really have any other issues. But another standout for this movie is going to be the music, and really how they filmed these scenes with Elvis singing and stuff like that, and just really capturing this energy, this passion, and just really the excitement of this music in this era. And it's also a really good kind of historical piece. It really did a good job of capturing the 60s. Obviously, I wasn't alive during the 60s, but it felt like it did a nice job of really encompassing that time, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and trying to capture some of the ideas in that era and really including other pop culture figures into this movie. Not like acting in this movie, but like, you know, the news and like the chaos that was going on in that time period. It was really cool to see how they kind of worked that into Elvis's life and how that kind of affected Elvis, stuff like that, and how that affected his music. So really, really cool. I didn't know a lot of the stuff I learned in this movie, so it was really nice to learn that. Really good biopic overall. I think it really was warranted. I think there was really well made, really good acting, really good music. Everything was really well done with Baz Luhrmann's typical style that he brings to this film, with lots of flavor and lots of just energy. So overall, I really enjoyed Elvis. I think it's a really well-made film. Not a perfect film, far from the best film of the year in my opinion, but just a really solid biopic, musical biopic about Elvis Presley that really just holds your attention throughout the film and really kept me engaged. A little long, obviously, as I mentioned, but other than that, I just really enjoyed this movie. So I'm going to give Elvis a 4 out of 5 and an 88%. Like I said, a really solid movie. Highly recommend you go check it out in theaters. It's certainly worth the money you would pay for it. It's one of those films that really benefits from being in theaters and really experiencing it on that big screen where you can't go on your phone, you can't look away, you have to watch the movie and really just get engulfed into the film. So I think it's one of those kind of films. Anyways, that's going to do it for my review for Elvis. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. Leave your thoughts down below on the movie if you have seen it. If you're planning to see it, you can also leave your thoughts down below. I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.